to big deals. The breaking news of the night is about Mason Mount, because late night Chelsea communicated to Manchester United that they are not going to accept their third proposal for Mason Mount. £50 million plus 5 in add-ons. Not enough for Chelsea, but in the communication, what Chelsea told Man United no for Mason Mount, they also told them, we can do the deal for £58 million plus 7 in add-ons. So 65 million pounds for Mason Mount. This is
interesting update there from Fabrizio. We've seen the news, the latest bid rejected from Man United for Mason Mount. But what does this mean? There's so much talk online. The NVC are out in full force. United have caved in. United have collapsed. They only wanted to pay 45 million. They should walk away. They shouldn't get the deal done. We're going to delve into that and more on the show. We're also going to talk about Lautaro Martinez potentially moving to Chelsea, the big Urian Timber bid as well. So stay with the Terrace. Hit the like button. Make sure the bell notifications are turned on, though, so you don't miss any shows. So next to the subscribe button, put on notifications now. But let's get back to some more of what Fabrizio has got to say here.
Is what Chelsea asked in terms of structure of the deal. 58 plus 7. This is the plan at Chelsea. From Manchester United, still no official reaction. They will think about it in the next hours. The indications were that it was the final bid from Man United, but of course, what Chelsea did in this final communication is also to propose to Manchester United to meet face-to-face in person to discuss this deal and to find a way together. Chelsea know that Mason Mount has been very clear in the recent days. He's not going to sign a new deal, at least to date is the position of the player, and he's prepared to fight for his move to Manchester United in terms of maybe joining them as a free agent in 1 year. So Mason Mount doesn't want to see this deal collapsing. This is why Man United always wanted to play in terms of fee, but they made that final proposal. But this is always why Chelsea want to be respected in terms of fee and in terms of asking price for Mason Mount.
And so there's a lot to dig into in this. First of all, there's a lot of talk about Man United final fee. If you go back to the original tweet from Fabrizio and other journalists, it said sources suggest it might be a final bid, likely to be the final bid. United could walk away from this deal. There was never a definitive 100% it's take it or leave it. So first and foremost, Man United cannot be held accountable for a comment from the media saying sources, because we don't know whether that's from a Man United source. Remember what Fabrizio said. We haven't even officially responded to the press yet with any kind of release. This has all come from Chelsea. So that can't be taken overly seriously. Personal opinion goes out the window. Whether you think Mason Mount is worth the amount of money United are going to pay or not is irrelevant to what Ten Hag and Manchester United think. Therefore, the negotiations can only be assessed based on their view of the player as opposed to all our individuals. Otherwise, you end up with a million different answers. But will this deal get done? My view is yes. And it's always going to be for that midpoint. Dean Jones said it 2.5, 3 weeks ago on the Terrace. Ben Jacobs said it 2 or 3 weeks ago on the Terrace. Man United are prepared to go as high as around £60 million. Of course, their opening offer was around 45 million. The same as Chelsea set their opening valuation of 75 to 80 million. Each bid Man United have made, the total amount Chelsea want or are prepared to accept has decreased. Each time Man United's public willingness to spend on the deal has increased. This is typical in negotiations. The amount of times I've vendored for business, I always pitch, unless there's a risk of you completely losing the negotiations, you always pitch more money as payment than you actually need as a business to push past your margins. And when you're the vendor and when you're taking on the clients, you're always offering less money than you're actually prepared to pay because you're trying to find a happy medium. This is negotiations 101. I think Man United and Chelsea will meet somewhere in the middle around that 60 million mark. Might be with some performance-related add-ons, but it'll be in and around that mark there. Both teams will have dropped a bit or added a bit to their initial bids or initial public valuations, which we all expected to happen. It's only really the NVC that are focusing on who wins the negotiation. I'm more interested in my club landing the players my manager wants and for him creating a team that can win. Chelsea Football Club are more interested in removing players that don't want to be there. That is the focus of both football clubs and what fans should be. That's where the attention of fans should be. So I think it will get done. Chelsea want to do a face-to-face meeting today in the coming hours, according to Fabrizio Romano. Now, what's really key about this is the other stories that surround it. The Guardian reporting that United will move on to other targets, which include Moises Caicedo. Sorry, I went into my mouth there. I don't know what that was. Moises Caicedo, if a deal for Mason Mount cannot be done. Now, I kind of want Man United to move on to Moises Caicedo irrespective. I heard a rumor last night, though, talking to a journalist at The Guardian, that Man United may be moving on to Moises Caicedo irrespective of the Mason Mount situation. But what they don't want to do is damage any standings currently with Chelsea by publicly making that news, by saying, no, you're wrong. Calling Simon Stone or Fabrizio or Steinberg and saying, no, actually, we're going to go for Caicedo irrespective. So there's a thought that Man United may move on to him as a target later on down the line in this window, regardless. However, there is still the threat that Man United will walk away. We've been told the upper limit for this deal has always been in and around that £60 million mark. So let's see now what happens after these face-to-face meetings today that Fabrizio has told us about. Make sure like buttons are hit, by the way. Make sure you are subscribing. And on to Arsenal here. This story states that Arsenal Football Club are preparing to increase their offer for the Ajax star Urian Timber after the £30 million bid was rejected. Now, the Dutch defender, the Dutch Giants want around 50 million for him. But suggestions from the Netherlands, it will be a lot less. Suggestions from the Netherlands, it will come in at around 35 to 40 million pounds in totality. The player reportedly already in the UK, ready to seal this deal, ready to do his medical, ready to push on forward and become an Arsenal player. There's no doubts about that. There's been pictures of him on aeroplanes flying to the UK that I've seen online. We know what Gooners can be like when they're close to a player. They become Sherlock Holmes. And I enjoy watching it, to be fair, because it's harmless. But this is a good piece of business. I want to just say this to Arsenal fans as well, though. I don't know who's taught you about transfers, whether it's tabloid newspapers or poor content creators or poor journalists. But you can work on more than one deal at once. This notion that it's a distraction sometimes can be true, other times not so much. You've got to remember, Arsenal were not spending 8 working hours, 9 working hours, 10 working hours a day working on the Declan Rice deal. There isn't enough activities for, again, individuals. Some people you may have accountants working on a payment structure, making sure it works for the club all day, but it doesn't mean Edu's standing over their shoulder watching with a calculator. He'll be doing other things, other deals, other bits of business. You don't always sign your number one priority target first either. Another one of the biggest myths in football transfer history. It strikes me, it renders me sober every single day, every single summer, where I see people have that train of thought. So you are still working on this deal. You'll get the media that will hype it up and say there'll be an acceleration if the Rice deal is concluded. But you're preparing this bid now. You're working on the structure. You're going back in for the player. You've told him you this is where you want to be. He is committed to you as of now. And I think he's going to be a very, very good addition to Arsenal. So that's one deal. So again, keep your eye out for. The news could break any moment that the bid has gone in because no one actually knows until after the fact. The media don't get briefed ahead of time, really. But we'll see what happens. Now, in terms of Chelsea, I've already mentioned them once already today. The Jackson medical is scheduled for today. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. He says the deal completed on Friday and is now set to sign, as Jackson will be unveiled as a new signing as soon on a very long-term contract. That's Chelsea again giving out these big, long deals. That's going to trigger their rivals. The rivals will be triggered. The rivals will be fuming when it comes to that. But look, it's a good bit of business for Chelsea. I've stood strong on this the whole time. It doesn't matter whether I'm buzzing because I'm not a Chelsea fan. I'm not massively moved by this deal. But at the same time, I'm not going to condemn it and say, oh my God, this is going to be awful, because I don't know much about the player. Only a fool, only a member of the NVC would ever judge somebody harshly or overhype them without really knowing much about them at all. And I've been very fair and very consistent on this deal. Now, what's really interesting is a story that's come from Felix Johnson. He states that Lautaro Martinez has told Mauricio Pochettino that he would be open to joining Chelsea. Says here Lautaro is the most likely striker, as he's Poch's understanding first choice and seen as more available as Inter need sales. Potential part exchange for Lukaku. It says Koulibaly at the moment doesn't want to join Inter. That's already done now. Because this is from a couple of days back. That story has now been picked up by wider reports as well, including Dean Jones via Give Me Sport. And the reason that I wanted to cite Felix Johnson is because he put that news out first. But it said here that the Inter striker Lautaro Martinez wants to sign for Chelsea and work under Pochettino. That's according to the Express. It then goes on to say journalist Dean Jones told Give Me Sport last week that Chelsea officials have been big admirers of Martinez for a long time. Now there's speculation that the Serie A forward would like to move to Stamford Bridge this transfer window. So there's a lot of talk about this. Felix, the Express, Dean Jones has mentioned it. The Jackson deal would make more sense with a signing like Lautaro Martinez coming in. It would just bring it all together. It would make it a little more understandable to be going after a young, fairly raw striker as well as a Lautaro. Suddenly that whole front line is rejuvenated, fresh blood, moving in a different direction. So again, let's keep our eye out on this one. Nothing advanced, nothing imminent, nothing close suggested about this deal right now. But it could escalate for Chelsea, especially with all the exits going on at the club. As ever, hit the like button. Please subscribe. Hit the bell notification button. We currently have it. I want to tell you how many people do it right now because I am staggered by this. We have 59,000 people that have those notifications turned on. But you still don't get notified of every video. Okay? So you need to put the push messages on. Okay? We want to get that number up to about 100,000. Get that done right now. Join the rest of the crew. Leave the NVC and make sure you're part of the Football Terrace community. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon.